How's it going, everybody? Just woke up. I had this thought in my mind. I'm gonna just cut to the chase. About this whole idea of like we're all the same and stuff like that. These we are the same arguments. We bleed the same blood arguments. I think that's an oversimplification of humanity. There's so many things that makes us unique and different. In my opinion, one it reminded me of the debate between W.E.B. Du Bois and what's his name Booker T. Washington, where they both had these arguments about should we integrate or should we do things separately. And I think, and according to other races and how they became successful, and this is a very general oversimplification in itself, is that they did both. They integrated in their own culture, they cultivated their own culture, they sustained their own culture, um, and they integrated. So they like it's why, especially in places like Chicago, is heavily segregated. They have their own towns. So you got Chinatown, you got the Jewish town or Jewtown for short. You got Greek town. They used to be they're I want to say they tried to have a Japantown, but I don't think that exists. I Not too long ago, a guy, a Vietnamese fellow that I had who Ubered for me, not Uber for me, but I was just in the ride and all that stuff. He told me about Vietnamese Town. That was very interesting. And ironically, it tried off on a different conversation. But these conversations, these places, they're segregated. They have the majority just their own many homogenized societies. And I'm not a anti-diversity person. I do think that with Black America, that we have a homogenized society, but I don't think it's necessarily. I think it's just one of those natural things that like occur with tribalism and things of that nature. But I was thinking to myself when people say we all bleed the same blood, is it's not really taking into account the differences of people. You got dialects, you've got cultural customs, you have responses to history, you have all these notions and just things that are specifically unique to people's culture. You have even the Asian experience, the general Asian experience, where no matter if you're Japanese or Chinese or whatever like that, there's just things that they themselves just identify, and there's something that I couldn't identify with them or white people couldn't identify with them. It's just unique to their experience, and it was one of those things that made me think because I went on TikTok and I occasionally go on TikTok, but I seen this YouTuber. I forget his name though, but he was like he was a comedian type TikToker, I guess like that. And he was sponsoring this dating app, but it was for Asians. Like, and in my opinion, I think it was like East Asians, like but that's when people say that they're talking about Asians, they're typically talking about East Asians, even though South Asians have to tell them, hey, we're Asians too, because they're from the continent of Asia. You could say the North Asians are Russian and yada yada yada, but essentially Asians, East Asians. Sorry. But it just made me think that because when people keep saying that, it's just a very lazy and unthought out excuse as to why people's personal culture expressions are ignored or glossed over, and it's almost just like a minor, maybe if you want to call it. I wouldn't call it a microaggression, but maybe it can be taken as a microaggression or a small form of gaslighting when people say this is my culture and then you get mocked for your culture. I just had recently. I think it bothered me last night, and I'm glad I'm trying to get over it. Um, and I guess this video is part of me processing it. Is when people say, I went on this case Kaleidoscope, which is a Christian band, and this lady mentioned to herself she's a 50-year-old African American woman who found this band and she found it to be great. She specifically mentioned herself to be African American, and I guess an Indian dude like said the same thing, but mentioned he was a brown man, and I don't know if he meant that as he was just sharing his story too. That like, which also kind of reminds me of Blinded by the Light and Yesterday, because these people they are telling you that people like them usually don't like this type of stuff, right? They tell you that this was in a movie. and this was about brown people liking white bands, European bands. One of them was about the Beatles. The other one was about I forget his name, Bruce Springsteen. And I just find that really interesting, kind of strange to me, because in this so-called post-Christian nation that whites, in my opinion, like to keep on telling you that it is, you get a lot of examples that race does matter to people, even if they didn't initially want it to. I used to live in Wisconsin for a good minute, and I didn't want that stuff to be an issue until when I went to Chicago. It was constantly reminded to me about multiple races, including my own. And so I do feel like part of white privilege is just you don't have that problem. You can mention this is my name. This is what I do. And the meritocracy is far more important than your race, and it should be across the board, but it's not. Black white people do have a clean slate. They don't have to mention their whiteness. They don't have to mention, oh, I'm white, so I don't do this. Unless like maybe if it was like black culture, then. But again, if you know about black culture, you know how the history and the predatory nature that involved blacks and whites, and how even in the music industry where it was very predatory and people stole stuff. So black people are very protective of the culture for that reason. But going back to it, this dude said, "Oh, it's funny how you're slightly racist." And I don't know. I'm guessing the dude was white, but I had to tell him like, white people do this all the time in hip hop places. Oh, I'm an older 50-year-old white dude, and it's just like, well, yeah, I get why you say that, and the person typically has compassion because we get it. You wouldn't naturally gravitate to this type of music, so I'm just saying, have some compassion for your brothers and sisters when they tell you about these things. They're not trying to be racist.